So back in mid-May, we had cabin fever, just as everybody does. And we had a project. I've always wanted to try this. I've never stopped long enough. I've tried it in the past, but I never stopped long enough to really video the process or really go in depth and show and try to, I guess, lay it out and see on a budget side of things what exactly what you could do with just a rake and or a shovel. I get them questions all the time when I'm out on properties like, I don't have the equipment and I don't have the funding to buy the equipment. What can I get away with and how can I plant? And so what can I plant, you know, in certain areas? This plot here, this is that house plot. This is that opening that I made last year. Obviously you can see my place up on the hill there, and then the pond here, and then this like we have talked, you know, we walked you through this setup before. But what we did is in mid-May, I came in here and I took the rake and we planted this Egyptian wheat to try to get a screen here on this berm, the small berm that I made on this side of my horse pasture. If you can see this in the background, actually you can see my shop and my hog barns, and it's horse pastures right here, and then this channel, this water channel connects my ponds together, and then the food plot starts here, goes to the bank, goes to the foothill of the house, and then runs continuously, runs all the way to the west around the end of the pond levee, and that's where that up on the hill there, that's where all the that bedding area that I created and we did those videos on last year. But back to the food plot here, what I did is I came in here in May, and we knew it was early, but I took the rake and I just wanted to show folks what you can do and what you can't do, and how you know, fails are made and myths are held onto, and there's so, like we've talked in the past, there's so much information out there, but what works and what doesn't, there are two different things. As you can see, this line, I'll get back here a little bit so you can see, this line right here is about the quarter mark on my food plot. It's kind of long, long linear, if you will, here that runs along the pond. Everything from here over, from this mark over in here, is where I planted the Egyptian wheat. We raked it up, you know, just with a garden rake, and it wasn't tilled, obviously, that it had been worked, you know, with the dozer the fall before, last fall, and then we came in here and I had planted, you know, I had a bunch of rye and stuff planted in here just to try to get some organic matter built, so when I did turn it over and finish the plot here. But this halfway mark is where this is only that this is this portion is only had the Egyptian wheat out about 8 yards from the pile here, the berm, and then what I had is that is the only spot that had any 844 Morgan's compost on it. So a couple things here that I wanted to bring to you guys is it kind of worked into a you know, kind of a theory here of what you can do that I wasn't shooting for outside of the Egyptian wheat. So number one, the Egyptian wheat did grow. Some of it did grow, and my idea here going into it was I was going to plant it. I'm not going to spray it, I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm just going to plant it, and with that, you know, I worked it up by hand, and it's about 30 yards long, and like I said, it's about 8 or 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet in some spots wide, and I did that by hand. And it did, some of the Egyptian wheat is coming, but as you can see, it's is overtaken by ferns. It's overtaken by just a bunch of odds and ends, 2 different ferns actually that are in here that I found. I did get some lower level herbaceous growth as far as some regeneration in here, but it's not, you can see in the background there's actually a little stand there that's got quite a bit of Egyptian wheat in it. That was when obviously the soil temperatures were low, and I had a gentleman say, you know, it commented on there that it was usually a mid-June deal, and that's exactly what it was. I was just trying to see on a budget scale for guys as if, you know, what you can get away with and what you can't. This ground is very obviously, we're right next to the ponds here, so the ground has all kind of moisture with the organic matter and water retentions here, but the organic matter is not. So I believe if I left this going into the rest of the year, I could probably have it might, you know, I feel the way it's growing right now, I probably am going to get about 2-3 feet of some Egyptian wheat in here. The problem with it is, without spraying it and without maintaining it correctly, it was overtaken. And this is what you get when you don't, you know, use the proper tools and the proper deals, and you just try to, you know, put it in here. My screen that I planted up in the timber on the hill there in May as well, we planted at the same time, and I was trying to divide that that bedding area up there, that hinge cut, just to get some, you know, stack those does in tighter, and that did not grow at all. My intentions were on that, as I got it in there before the leaves were on, even though that I knew that the ground, I fertilized that as well, even though that I knew the ground was colder than it should have been, you know, lower than that 50-degree mark, and it didn't grow. I've got a whole bunch of regeneration up there in that opening that I took that leaf blower down through there. I did get a whole bunch of regeneration because of it's fertilized, but not enough to you know, overcome the look of what it's doing in the summer versus the power that it would have to do anything with in the fall. But one of the things, so that's the first thing, the Egyptian wheat failed. We are going to replant it. I'm going to be, you know, coming in here. I've got this is actually, this farm is going to be for sale, and I'm going to prep the food plot here and make sure everything's ready when I put it on the market here. So this will all be done, but we're going to go through, and I'm going to turn this under. The rest of it's planted into rye, and we're going to go in and turn it under, and I'm going to replant this Egyptian wheat wall here, so, and fertilize it correctly. But on the topic of fertilizing, you can see that from this portion over, obviously right in here, is the only spot that had fertilizer added to it. Now, if you look at the rest of the plot, you can see what grew, or what performed higher, at a higher level as far as volume. I'll put you down below here and we'll go for a walk. You can see what grew at a you know, at a higher rate as far as density. Rye out here in the plot itself, and then this edge where we planted the you know, the Egyptian wheat, along this edge here, you can see the density way denser, you know, with some native grass, some, obviously, like I said, 2 different ferns, and then as long as, you know, you can pick through it here, you can find the Egyptian wheat. But the moral of the story here is the moral of the story here is, what I did find is the fertilizer is pretty powerful. And when you're going into an area, this buffalo system that we're going into, you know, going into fall, that first week of August, planting these brassicas, you could use this stuff to crimp and roll down on top of the brassicas, and those ferns have that hard stem, such as buckwheat, such as that high density rye, and it would cover up. It would, you know, be used. You could use it as that obviously you're rolling it down. You're, you know, putting the brassicas in it, and then rolling it and crimping it down, and then spraying that, you know, with clay on top of the glyphosate on top of that, and you know, using it as that thatch. It's dense, very dense. So that just shows you the power of the 844. Not what we were you know, looking to do in that video, as far as show, you know, to using that 844 to promote growth, is the density. It just shows you that it does add to the definitely add to the volume that you get, the production. Pretty powerful stuff. But it also promoted a boatload of weed growth on top of the Egyptian wheat, which canceled that out. So so the early May, you might be able to get away with it in some areas, but with the proper tillage, just because you're you're kind of setting that seed down in a little bit maybe. But as far as the hand rake, that experiment that I did to kind of bring to you guys, if you could, you know, do those with a hand rake, it failed. So I'd highly recommend, that's one of those things there's a million of them out there. But that had time there in May and was just playing around with some stuff on this plot that I knew I was gonna you know, continue on with and you know, finish here. But it did fail, and just one of those messages that you know, use that money, use your you know, proper equipment, use the proper fertilizer, and in a case like that, just wait till June, wait till obviously the temperatures get up where they should be, so you've got that first jump of the green grass that you could kill, and then till it under and plant that Egyptian wheat the way it should have been planted, you know, a little bit deeper than what a garden rake offers you, and we would have had some more Egyptian wheat there. It did grow. I mean, it is in there, but it's not going to be enough to screen anything and make it any, you know, have any power going into fall. So a couple lessons learned there, and also the final lesson is knowing when to you know, if you want to experiment with these things, or if knowing when it doesn't work, is to kind of, you know, cut your losses early and go back in, such as I'm going to do here, and replant this. And this is, like I said, it was kind of just a little project that we had, and obviously had the correct fertilizer. Obviously we're low on pH because it's full of ferns, which tells me that pH is probably around that 4.5 mark, and so we need a whole bunch of lime. Fertilizer was correct, lime was short, and the Egyptian wheat did not grow. So we'll be fitting this project in the schedule here coming up. I've got because it was you know, kind of a new creation last year. I had some low areas that never got properly filled in, so there's two little water holes, if you will, inside the plot that we're gonna patch up, and we're going to bring all the barnyard material and everything that I've got, and get the fertilizer correct, and get some topsoil, and really plant this to the rye and the buckwheat, so then whoever purchases it can stay in touch with me, and I'll walk them through the process of planting that your brassicas in the fall into it. And it's going to be a hot little spot here. So I won't be here, hopefully, but whoever owns it, it's definitely quite the little piece of the puzzle that ties the rest of this property together, and something that should have been done on this farm years and years ago. But the way we hunted it before, I never had the need to, and just happened to have some equipment rented and doing some other projects, and blew it in here, and now it's time to finish it. But closing on the video here, so planting it early, planting that Egyptian wheat early, I wouldn't recommend it, and I would also recommend, you know, proper tillage tools to get it in the ground. Wait till June, wait till that, like we always do usually when we're planting screens, wait till June, first week of June if you're down in the Midwest, middle of June if you're up here in mid-Michigan, and any, you know, Wisconsin areas, or into Minnesota. Wait till that middle of June, get that temperature up around that 50-58 degree mark. Throw that, you know, get the proper tillage tool, seat that seed down in. That Egyptian wheat's a large seed, and it's also a large plant, so it needs to be planted about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch deep. Pack it in, and spend your money in the right place at the right time, and you get a better turnout than this. Will this work for other things, such as, like I said, you know, rolling that down on top of your brassicas if you wanted to use that? Yes, it will, but that's not what we planted it for. We were trying to get the activity of the screen, the production of the screen, planted in here with the Egyptian wheat, and it didn't work. But like I said, you know, I could let this go. I could let it go all summer, and I truly believe that what's in there, actually, there's more Egyptian wheat in there than what I thought there would be. And but I could probably get 3 or 4 foot out of it. It's kind of acting right now as switchgrass, if you will, more than it's acting as a screen. But it's 3-4 feet doesn't get me. what I want. So it's just knowing when to, like I said, knowing when to turn it under, use the proper tools, and make sure it's correct going into fall. Thanks, guys.